How's it going, everyone? In today's video I'm going to be showing you guys the natural fence line that I'm going to be making on my property. My property's over here. This is my neighbor's. I will be making the natural fence out of Giant Miscanthus grass from Real World Products. Just to start, a few tools you're going to need are an edger, a tape measure, and a tamper or a sledgehammer to tamp the edges down once you get the plastic in the ground. So I'll show you how I do that now. I just wanted to explain the plastic that I'll be using. It's actually called plastic mulch, and it's 0.5 mil biodegradable. So what I did is I took the edger, put it in the ground, moved it back and forth to create a void in the dirt, and then I took a junky pair of scissors and I took the plastic and ran it down into the ground where I created that void. And then either take your sledgehammer or a tamper, and then you're going to tamp the edge down to push the dirt back against the plastic so that no strong winds, like today, will pull the plastic out. Start the video.
I'm sorry.
How's it going, everyone? I just wanted to start this next portion of the video by stating that I am not sponsored by Real World Products. I just haven't seen any videos on YouTube explaining a privacy fence or natural fence made out of Giant Miscanthus grass that can grow upwards of 10 to 16 feet tall. So with that being said, the next portion I'm going to be showing you how I prep the area. So I skimmed the top of the grass about 2 inches, and my deck on my mower is 52 inches wide. The plastic is 4 feet wide. So what the plan is we're going to take this plastic and we're going to lay it over the top here. We're going to hold the plastic down with some stones just because it's kind of windy today. The plastic isn't going to stay down where we want it to. We're going to space out 18 inches how we want to plant the Giant Miscanthus. Poke holes through the plastic, and then I'm going to spray paint through the holes, and then we're going to flip the plastic back over, and then wherever it was spray painted is where we are going to drill down and plant each rhizome. I just wanted to show you guys the end result after we ended up getting all the holes and spray painting through them. So there was actually a small change of plans. We were initially going to poke holes, and we didn't have a tool to do that, and we didn't want to buy one just for this purpose. So I had a torch laying around, and what we ended up doing is measuring on a piece of cardboard 18 inches across, and then I just spray painted a line right there, and then I measured to the next hole, and then every time I got to that next hole I just shot it with the torch. And mine's adjustable, yours may not, but if you just do a small spurts, it'll do a small hole like that. And then in order to get it to the rhizome to start growing and it comes up through the hole, what I was going to do is once I got this next edge in the ground, I was going to come by and make the holes larger so that there wasn't a chance that the rhizome would actually die because it couldn't find its way up through the hole that I created. So we ended up doing the entire length. The next plan is to start with a auger and drilling the holes and then planting each rhizome, and I'll show you that next part once we get there. Here's our progress so far. We've got one row done. We've got the rhizomes in our cart over there, and like I said, we're using an auger. That's the size up to my palm, for example, If I were you, I'd actually get one a little bit larger, but then, you know, if you go larger, it's going to be obviously more resistance getting in the ground. I just wanted to state too, by no means am I calling this job easy. Like I said, we just got done with one row. We've still got two more. It's about 150 feet from here to the corner of my house. And we ordered, I'm pretty sure, about 300 rhizomes to do 150 feet. And we're doing 3 rows wide. For any of you guys wondering, we are going about 20 feet off of the Buckeye tree that we have here. Yes, I do live in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm a Buckeye. And when we are using the auger about 20 feet off the tree, for another extending out 10 feet, we were running into issues with some roots. So we do not necessarily have the correct drill for this job, so you do kind of get some whiplash just with the clay soil, but once it starts wrapping around the roots, it'll definitely take your arm for a ride. So I would just watch out for that. Now that all 3 of our rows are planted, we're going to fold the plastic back over and use the edger to tuck in the other side. As you can see, the other side's been tucked in. Now what we're doing is taking the blowtorch again and making the holes wider. The reason we're making them wider is when we had the auger out, we actually had to auger twice in order to fit the length of the rhizomes. So on the sides, we put the rhizomes lengthwise like this, and then for the middles, we went horizontally like this. So I'm going to be making the holes larger next for the middle, and then the other side. This row is done. Now that all of the holes have been made larger, I did some research to see if I had to put any kind of weight on top of the plastic to prevent the wind from getting underneath the holes and starting to rip them even larger and or completely get rid of the plastic. And it was kind of mixed thoughts, mixed opinions as to whether or not you should weigh it down. Some people leave it alone, some people weigh it down with grass clippings. My personal opinion is you should weigh it down with something, mostly because I see those road sign advertisements that have holes in them and they're always ripped up and nothing's ever weighing those down. So my plan is I took my lawn sweeper and I picked up all the grass clippings for the past 2 weeks, so they're semi-wet still. If you keep them any longer than 2 weeks, they'll be too dry that they'll just slide off the top and carry off into your neighbor's lawn and or yours. So what I'm going to do is take the clippings and lay them on top, obviously around the holes, so that when the rhizomes start to grow up through, those don't die because I suffocate them. So that'll be my next plan. Now that all of the holes have been made larger, I did some research and I saw that there was some mixed opinions out there as to whether or not you should weigh the plastic down to prevent it from ripping due to the wind getting up in through the holes. And my personal opinion, what I'm going to be doing is weighing it down with 2 weeks worth of grass clippings. I picked those up with my lawn sweeper over there. Any longer than 2 weeks, it'll be too dry. They'll just carry off with the wind into your neighbor's yard. So that'll be my next plan, is I'll be placing the semi-wet grass clippings on top of the plastic, obviously around the holes. This is how I ended up laying out the grass. I obviously have to finish out on the end when I cut the grass next. What I'm also going to be doing, so that I don't have to weed whack around and potentially cut the edge, is I'll be laying the next week or two layer of grass all the way down the entire row of both sides. Now I know this seems like a lot of work, but the other option was using a rototiller, and we didn't really want to take that risk because we've never planted Giant Miscanthus. We don't necessarily know that it's going to work. So if it doesn't work, then at least the ground layer is still somewhat flat and we can very easily get the grass to come back up again without a whole bunch of ridges down the entire row. The other thing is we didn't want to either purchase a rototiller or rent a rototiller, so it was just another added expense. The entire sheet, it was 250 feet of 0.5 biodegradable, and I think it ran us about $36 off Amazon shipped. So with that being said, I plan on putting about 3 seconds worth of Miracle Grow mixed with water in each hole twice a week. And then while I'm out here without any Miracle Grow, obviously, I'll be doing a 3-second spurt on each grass pile, at least for the first week or two, just so that it kind of holds that weight down and keeps the moisture underneath that bottom layer of grass, so it doesn't blow the whole pile off and into my neighbor's yard or my yard. In order to maintain each hole, because the plastic should kill all the grass and weeds that may be under this entire pile, I'll be using 2,4-D weed killer herbicide to maintain control of the weeds. Just wanted to give an update. Last time I made a video, it was April 29th. Today's date is June 12th, so it's been about a month and a half. Obviously, you can see there's quite a bit of progress. To start, along the edges, I told you I was going to put some grass, but to give you some reference, I left a section that wasn't done yet. And you can see I've had to weed whack along the edge here, and it's kind of a pain because you've got to watch with the weed whacker to make sure that you don't cut open the edge of the plastic. And down there, if I don't forget, I'll show you, I started to cut open the edge of the plastic, so obviously that's not good. The next thing I wanted to talk about was it is a lot of work to maintain the weeds coming up through each of the holes. So now that I know Miscanthus does grow in my area, and it does work clearly, I would have probably rented a rototiller at this point, just because of the plastic being such high maintenance. It does keep the ground a lot warmer towards the end of the afternoons, and moist as well. So I may be getting the height that I'm getting because of the plastic. There's a reason they use it in agriculture, so it does seem to be beneficial, but I wouldn't say to not use a rototiller if you have one. The next thing is I did water each hole for about the first 2 weeks, and then I haven't watered it since, just to kind of get that soil to kind of settle down around the root, the rhizome. And then the other thing was to kind of give it a good head start. And then the grass on the top that I used as weight, I only watered that maybe once or twice. And then clearly you can see that it's kind of matted down and doing its job by holding that plastic down so the wind doesn't get up underneath and start to rip holes in it. Not that birds and bunnies haven't ripped their own holes into the plastic that I've had to cover up over the past few weeks, but it does a pretty good job. As far as 2,4-D goes, I haven't used any, and the reason is I wasn't sure, with them being such new plants starting to come up out of the ground, that I would potentially kill them. So as of now, I have not used any 2,4-D, but moving forward, I will start to be using 2,4-D because given that it's June, any grass and with as much sun out, it's really hard to keep up on the grass that's trying to grow up around the Miscanthus, as well as any weeds. They just grow like crazy. So what I've been starting to do, and I'm going to show you in a sec, is I've been pulling out the grass and weeds around each one of the rhizomes that have been coming out of the ground, as well as the ones that haven't started yet. And I've been putting about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch layer of grass clippings around each plant and on top of each hole. because the miscanthus, as it comes out of the ground, it's kind of like a needle. It just wants to poke right through the plastic. Now, I'm not saying they all poke through the plastic, but a lot of them do poke through because they're so sharp when the miscanthus starts to grow up. What I have noticed is if you don't watch around each one of the holes as it's starting to grow, you can kind of see a little bit of an indent in the plastic, and that's the miscanthus trying to poke through, but it wasn't sharp enough. So if you just reach your finger in around the holes where you see that, you can figure out if it is actually miscanthus and then rip a hole in the plastic to get it to grow up. Otherwise, the plastic is going to do its job and kill the miscanthus as it's trying to get through. My tallest plant is this one right here. And it's definitely way past knee high by the 4th of July. It's 4 feet tall. So that's pretty wild. So another one thing that I wanted to say was this line right here going down towards the back. That was the first week that I planted, and then back here along my fence line all the way in the back, that is 1 week later from what this was planted at. And then this row right here is 3 weeks. So I've got 3 weeks worth of miscanthus planted, and then all the ones that I thought were dead, I planted right next to this tree back here. And the reason I did that is I probably tossed about 50 to 70 rhizomes in the back, and just a big hole is if any rhizomes or plants don't begin to come up next year, if any of those dead ones that I thought were dead start to come up, then I can just replant them into any of the holes that haven't started yet. So getting back to the ones that haven't really started yet, for some reason this entire row right on the edge here haven't grown. As you can see, there's a whole bunch of them. It just goes and goes. So about the middle of my property, there's an entire row, and even the middle row, that haven't even grown yet. I'm not quite sure as to the reason, but hopefully some of those dead ones start to grow. So as you can see, what I've been doing is pulling the grass and weeds out and then filling around the holes about 1/2 inch. And you can tell that my first stalk has come up, and even the second stalks are starting to come up as well. I'll try and give you a few more examples. There's 2 there. This one's got 3. So there's quite a few. So that should conclude the video, and if I feel there's anything else to talk about before winter and fall, I'll give you an update video. I just wanted to give you guys another update before winter came. Today's date is November 11th. The last time I made a video was June 12th, so it's been 5 months. So the leaves are starting to fall off the trees, and winter's upon us. You guys are probably all wondering what my tallest plant is. It's going to be the one that first started to grow. It's 10 feet, if you can believe that. I think part of the reason why I had so much success in getting the height that I have so far is I was originally just putting the grass around the border, and then just to kind of hold the plastic down so it didn't blow away in the wind as the wind came underneath the holes to kind of lift it off. What I eventually did, because I had so many grass clippings during the season, was I just ended up putting it over the entire sheet of the plastic. So as the grass decayed, the nutrients inside the grass came down and, I'm assuming, helped assist grow the miscanthus. I did not put any other fertilizers besides the grass clippings, and now I am mulching up my leaves, and then these are all leaves going all the way down, and I put those as the base over top of the grass, because eventually it just decays so much that there really isn't anything left. Other than that, as far as keeping the weeds down, because you can tell that there really isn't much weeds in and around the miscanthus now, just because the grass clippings and the leaves are taking care of that pretty well. I used 2,4-D. I did it 3 times during the entire summer, and I think they were split up around maybe 3 weeks apart. And then I just used the typical ratio that it called out on the jug of 2,4-D, just for getting rid of your lawn weeds. I didn't water any of the miscanthus after July, just to kind of get through the heat of the season. So as soon as July was over, I didn't water it any. And then this was the line behind my house, the first one that I planted. You can see that the row that didn't start to grow, it eventually came up, and you can tell it came up pretty well. Besides right where this tree is, you can see all the plants I think were deprived of water and or nutrients, other than the grass clippings that I put down, so they didn't grow nearly as tall as my 10 feet. I can take a measurement real quick and let you guys know, if you were to plant it around a tree, how tall it would be approximately. So I just measured this one and this one right here, and the smallest was about 2 feet, and then the other one was about 4, in comparison to my tallest, which is 10, and that's, like I said, right behind this tree. So I'm going to go to the back of the property and show you my 2-week and then 3-week miscanthus, so you can kind of get an idea of the height on those as well, if they are 2 or 3 weeks apart in your planting. Okay, so for the back row, which was my 2nd week into planting, as you can see, I have some lower areas and then some that didn't grow right there, and then again another lower area. But the tallest is 9 feet, and it's going to be the one right there. My average is about 7 feet, and then again in the smaller areas it's about 3 to 4 feet tall, especially on the end over there. And then my 3rd week of planting is going to be this spot right here. And as you can see, I'm not even going to measure it, but it's probably about 5 feet on the end, and then maybe 4 feet right here, but not hardly any of them grew. So if I could give you guys any advice, I would say, as soon as the planting season for Giant Miscanthus is, I would get it in the ground, because you're only going to benefit with what's going to be coming out of the ground. You can see here that some of them, they just barely got through to poke through. And then obviously it's hard to keep up with the weeds, and yeah, they just kind of struggle the later in the season that you start to plant. In the back here is where I planted the what I suspected to be dead miscanthus, and I only got one to pop up, and I accidentally mowed over top of it. So I think next year what I'll do is I'll make a separate video. Sorry, I just wanted to add 2 more things. I'm sure you guys are curious about the distance from the tree, from the first plant that doesn't have quite as much height, I'm sure is due to the roots, is 15 feet between here and here. So if you're on the fence, I'd probably add about another 5 feet away from the tree, and it should alleviate the problem that I'm having. If you're wondering what the screen looks like in the first year, there's the house, my neighbor's house, and you can barely see. So it should fill in pretty well next year. I'll go to the back and I'll kind of show you what it looks like back there as well, because that screen's a little bit better. Alright, so there's my neighbor's blue house, and then there's the screen there. I'll come over to the side, and you can see the screen's pretty well covered. Another thing I think you guys are probably curious about is the plumes on the top. What color are they? So I'll pull one down. It's kind of like a pretty white in the summer, and then right now it's kind of turning to like a whitish tan, maybe with a little bit of gray in it. So if your wife is on the fence with Miscanthus, I mean, I would say it's actually quite pretty in the summer, and in the fall, honestly. They kind of wilt over just a little bit,